So I want to welcome everyone to our mindful moment from Saybrook University. My name is Dr. Donna Rockwell, and we're very excited to bring this series of meditations to the public to help us through difficult times as we all face them. So today I wanted to talk a little bit and do a meditation practice on the idea of what mindfulness is not. One of the things mindfulness tries to help us avoid is this sense of striving or over striving, grasping, clinging. And what's really interesting is the idea of thinking, well, all this to do about mindfulness. What is mindfulness not? So we can know what mindfulness is. So in that context, I want to talk a bit about not necessarily the thoughts we're thinking, but the space around the thoughts we're thinking and the gaps between our in-breath and our out-breath. So spaces and gaps as actually helping us come up with the whole gestalt of our life. So it's not just thought, but there's the idea of thought, space, thought, and breath, gap, breath. So the spaces around thoughts. So I just wanted to read a little bit here, and you can close your eyes as though you're being read to in your kindergarten class, and talking here about the space around thoughts. So life, running here and there, preoccupied with this or that, swept away by one thought or another. We barely have time enough to notice time passing. Never mind the preposterous preposition that we should just notice our thoughts, not only the thoughts themselves, but the space around them. The momentary peripheral reverberation, an infinitesimal synaptic break between cognitions, the very slightest of pauses, a hiccup in the assembly line of our thought production, when thought after thought after thought finally cease cascading like dominoes, responsible for the myopic blur that so often stands against our yearning for greater sanity. It's too bad, really, because in between is where the magic lies. To contemplate the notion of big E enlightenment, the striving for capacity for enlightened living, self-actualizing, or moving into a more attuned interpersonal alignment. John Wellwood, 2000, stressed the critical importance of exploring one's whole cognitive gestalt and all the parts that make up its sum. Wellwood says, our addiction to the grasping tendency of mind causes us to overlook the spaces around thoughts, the felt penumbra that gives our experience its subtle beauty and meaning. Neglecting these fluid spaces within the mind stream contributes to a general tendency to over-identify with the contents of our mind and to assume that we are the originator and custodian of them. This troublesome equation, I equals my thoughts about reality, creates a narrowed sense of self, along with an anxiety about our thoughts as territory that we have to defend. So I come to you today to ask, perhaps it's mindfulness practice that's perfectly suited to train our mind to see that there is no territory to defend after all. And our true nature, like strata, is far deeper than we know. Those who practice meditation are able to slow down the mental processes of our minds as a pre-Olympic trial in preparation for the real event. Slowing down the mind during life off of the cushion, or in other words, in the existential reality of our everyday life. It is too much to expect to learn such difficult lessons of self-control, skillful means, and self-mastery while cycling through the ups and downs of what often feels like a rat race. Because of the chaotic environment inherent in our obligatory life marathon, it becomes essential to sit, as we will do today, with great discipline in one place for periods of time, simply being with our breath and noticing the gaps between thoughts and the spaces between our breaths. So as we contemplate this notion of really trying to highlight and make bigger the spaces between, let us assume a meditation posture for some mindful awareness, shamatha vipassana practice. And as we practice today, focus on those spaces between your breaths and the gaps between thoughts, and see if you can enlarge them to be incorporated into your overall experience of being alive, of breathing. So we sit with our backs straight, our spine like a stack of golden coins reaching from the earth up to heaven. We bring with us a sense of acknowledging our precious human birth, this extraordinary opportunity to be alive, to breathe, to laugh, to cry, to sing, to console one another. Eyes are open if you're comfortable with that, or closed. Softly focused on a spot in front of you on the floor. The tongue is resting gently against the roof of the mouth. We bring our awareness to the breath as it goes out and dissolves into space. At the end of the out breath, a tiny gap, a space. We then attend to our in breath, coming into our lungs. We don't focus on this in breath too much because it will occur. We need oxygen to breathe. So we just simply allow the in breath. We notice the gap at the end of the in breath. And then very slowly, perhaps focusing on the area right underneath the nostrils, we bring our attention back to the breath going out and dissolving into space. While we're doing this, we also share that awareness with incoming stimuli through our five senses. So we hear the traffic, we see the pattern of the carpet, we taste a mint we recently finished, we feel our weight in the chair. So 5 sense awareness while we're noticing these 4 parts of the breath. And then when you notice you're caught in a thought, simply notice it. Bear witness to it. Observe its texture. And then when you're ready, simply return, like walking a puppy back inside the house tenderly, to the long, slow dissolving out breath. So in this meditation, as we sit together in silence, we'll be working on our breath, going out and dissolving, and then really focusing on that gap or space between our breaths. In breath naturally occurring, and then that gap or space between our in breath and now our long, slow dissolving out breath. So let's practice this together on our own silently. So rather than solely focusing on our thoughts and the content of thoughts, the this and the that of our experience, the him, the her, the they of our lives, the me, the you, the materiality and the daily grind of cause and effect, we can remember to explore the space around thoughts, the spaces between them. What is found in the gaps between the out-breath and the in-breath? Where is mind then? And who are you in those spaces? Who are you in those gaps? We can contemplate these questions. So if we can bring up the closing slide, please. As we explore and ask ourselves, what is mindfulness not? So we can understand what mindfulness actually is. Mindfulness is not obscure or exotic. It's familiar to us because it's what we already do, how we already are. It takes many shapes and goes by many names, mindfulness does. Mindfulness is not a special added thing we do. We already have the capacity to be present, and it doesn't require us to change who we are. But we can cultivate these innate qualities with simple practices that are scientifically demonstrated to benefit ourselves, our loved ones, our friends and neighbors, the people we work with, and the institutions and organizations we take part in. You do not need to change. Mindfulness is not about changing ourselves. Solutions that ask us to change who we are or become something we're not have failed us over and over and over again. Mindfulness recognizes and cultivates the best of who we are as human beings, as the mindful staff so eloquently writes. Are you supposed to clear your mind or focus on one thing? Mindfulness is simply being present in the moment and noticing the gaps between breaths, the spaces between our thoughts. So thank you so much for being with us today in our Saybrook Mindful Moment as we learn how to simply sit and be with ourselves and discover the peace and contentment along with the chaos that is the human mind. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again for the next mindful moment.